Magandang gabi. Can we check on our audio, please? Magandang gabi. Ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Ito po ang Luminous. Kudi doing an audio check. Pakisabi na lang kung may audio pa tayo. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Ito po ang Luminous. Nagla-live po tayo today from Cebu at the Radisson Blu. And tomorrow po kasi may launch ng Duterte pa rin, which is a movement to urge Mayor Sara Duterte to run for president. Okay daw ang audio, sabi ni Ronald. Okay, magandang gabi. Magandang gabi din sa lahat ng mga nanonood from Facebook and from YouTube. Ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Huwag po nating kakalimutan mag-like at mag-share nitong broadcast natin today. Also, paki-check na lang po kung naka-like and follow pa rin po kayo sa Luminous. And paki-check din po kung naka-subscribe na po kayo sa ating YouTube channel. Kasi kung hindi, why don't you go ahead and do so? Please. Magandang gabi. So nag-live tayo this morning tungkol dun sa Keng case, Wilfredo Keng case, which na inurong na niya a couple of days ago, saying na hindi na siya willing to spend that much time on the case. There are other things that he can do habang instead of pursuing the case. So maraming nagtatanong kung ano po tungkol saan itong second libel case. Naaalala nyo yung first libel case where a series of reports supposedly na kino-quote ng Rappler ang Philippine Star imputing that Mr. Keng is a criminal, supposedly a suspect in a murder case and so on. Ngayon, pursuant dun sa kanilang storya in Rappler, nagdagdag din po si Maria Ressa ng isang tweet or a series of tweets supposedly talking about that case. So yung second libel case, yung tungkol dun sa Twitter, tweets ni Miss Ressa about the articles in Rappler. Okay. So na-convict na si Miss Ressa for the publications in Rappler, pero yung dito sa tweet niya about the same stories, iniurong na po ni Mr. Keng. And this morning, yung pinag-uusapan natin, sinasabi natin, is we can't take it against Mr. Keng kung inurong niya yung kaso because unlike other criminal cases, ang libel po has more of a civil character. In fact, kaya sinasabi ng Korte Suprema, na ine-urge nila talaga yung mga judges na wag na maghahatol ng kulong tungkol dun sa when it comes to libel cases at maging fine na lang at saka danyos ang hatol kung sakasakaling guilty yung akusado. So maraming sumama ang loob because they were hoping na may second criminal case na makukulong si Ms. Ressa, and I think they pinned their hopes on Mr. Keng. Unfortunately, dahil nga ang libel is more of a civil character, hindi talaga, although nakalagay people of the Philippines ang kalaban dito sa kaso na ito, the Supreme Court recognizes na dapat minumove na natin towards a more civil character. This is because the freedom of speech is primordial dito sa atin. It's one of the most important rights, isa sa pinakamahalaga sa ating mga karapatan at nakalagay ito sa ating saligang batas. At ayon din sa ating saligang batas, hindi dapat nalilimita or no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech. Okay. Although may mga batas supposedly na naglilimit ng ating pagsasalita or sa ating karapatan na magpahayag, this does not mean that you cannot make laws, no? Lalong-lalo na yung mga batas na yon ay pang-protekta sa Estado. Halimbawa, inciting to sedition, terrorism, certain acts of terrorism, inciting to terrorism, inciting to rebellion, and so on. While these are limitations on the right to speech, kadalasan ay ito ay paraan para protektahan ng Estado ang sarili niya. Hindi ito civil in character, kundi criminal in character, so that is allowed. At in that case, talagang ang interes ng taong bayan ang pinangungunahan. When it comes to libel, it is the individual. So, hindi, kumbaga, I know na maraming naggalit or nanghihinayang, kumbaga, dun sa pag-urong ni Mr. Keng ng kaso. But this is his own, kumbaga, it's his own right. May right siya na maghabla, meron din siyang right na hindi ituloy ang kaso. And those who are imputing na masama kung settle niya yung kaso, hindi po. Kasi in fact, in civil suits, even in criminal cases, ine-encourage po yung pag-settle dun sa civil liabilities in criminal cases, and in civil cases, ine-encourage din po yun para maikli na yung litigation at hindi na po nasasayang yung oras ng hukuman. I think this is pretty clear. Just wanted to add more details dito sa pinag-usapan natin kaninang umaga. Now, I said that we'd also talk about itong si Senator Koko Pimentel and Senator Manny Pacquiao and the moves dito sa LDP. So, if there are no further questions on Mr. Keng's case, puntahan na natin ang LDP, ang gulong LDP. Sorry, LDP. PDP-Laban. Ay, nako, what's wrong with me? Okay, ulit. Ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon ay yung mga pangyayari dito sa PDP-Laban. Not just itong si Senator Manny, pero yung mga hanashi din nila in response to Mayor Sara Duterte saying no thanks but no thanks. Hindi daw siya sasali sa PDP-Laban. Okay? Check ko lang, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Dun sa mga nanonood naman sa atin or manunood sa atin on replay or team headset on the replay, magandang gabi din po sa inyong lahat. At I'm glad you could join us even if hindi na dito sa live. For those who would like to support Luminous, meron pong support button dun sa aming banner page, dun sa aming banner on YouTube. So, yung iba kasi wala po silang super chat or super stickers, so you can send via PayPal na lang through, and there's a toggle in our banner on YouTube. Okay, PDP-Laban. Very recently, ang unang pang nakita ay yung post ni Ron Monsayak saying something like, thank you very much, Mayor Sara. She recognizes that the invitations and the nominations that are ongoing in PDP-Laban are mere ploys, etc. To sow dissent or foment dissent within the PDP-Laban. And ito naman kumbaga halatang-halata yung mga sip-sip tones. You know what obsequious means in English? Obsequious means yung super sip-sip yung naalala niyo yung dati there was a movie with Dr. Frankenstein or some mad scientist, tapos meron siyang assistant si Igor. Tapos si Igor parati, yes, master. Yung pagka-yes, master ng Igor, that's the very epitome, yun yung itsura ng somebody who is obsequious, yung super-duper yes man. Super-duper sip-sip. So, ganun po yung mga 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 yung naririnig natin dun sa tono ng post ni Mr. Monsayak. Of course, that's our interpretation. We're not saying that he actually sounds that way, but medyo mahirap mawala sa loob ng utak natin yung ganong interpretation. Bakit nagkakaganyan? Well, of course, we know that the PDP-Laban is not exactly, well, how do you call this? Kumbaga, they're not happy about another Duterte presidency or another Duterte run. And clear dun sa isang faction dun sa PDP, particularly under Senator Koko Pimentel and all of the staff. In fact, ano ba yung sabi ni Boss John at the interim staff dito sa 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 PDP-Laban are clearly pro Manny Pacquiao. And Manny Pacquiao, Senator Manny Pacquiao, has not made a secret of the fact na gusto niyang tumakbo at ang gusto niyang itakbo ay bilang kandidato para sa pagkapangulo. And so they're not exactly pro Sara. So yung tunog ng mga posts ni Mr. Monsayak are clearly super hyperbola. They know, and Senator Manny has made no secret nga of the fact that he wants to be president, and the fact na very popular, and there seems to be a large clamor for Mayor Sara to run. Then, kumbaga, she is the end of all their plans. So, No matter how they resolve their issues within the PDP-Laban, we know that the president is more politically savvy than anybody, than all of them inside there. So let's see how he continues to handle this. Tandaan po ninyo, when they tried to prevent an assembly, yung faction ni Senator Manny Pacquiao, they tried to prevent an assembly, the president insisted on pushing through with it. On the other hand, we know that the president is not exactly keen, hindi naman siya happy na ninonominate siya na vice president, or at least he has not said so or made any indications that he's happy about it, or even that he accepts, or even that he acknowledges it. Yung last statement nga ng Pangulo ay tungkol sino yung mga possible administration candidates para sa pagkapangulo. At dun sa limang yon, syempre nabanggit si Inday Sara, and then there are others there. Let's see what game the president is playing. So far, ang hirap pa niyang basahin. But at the same time, yeah, we know that the president knows what's going on. Like, kitang-kita naman niya yung differences niya with certain members of the party. And the fact na parang tone deaf, parang what are you trying to do? Diba? Sino ba yung nagko-cause ng gulo sa loob ng PDP-Laban? Sino ba yung smaller faction, kumbaga? Ang laki-laki ng membership ng PDP, and a lot of that membership is because the president is there. So tignan natin. The fact that Mayor Sara also says thanks but no thanks is indicative na she's, well, it's not a good idea for any candidate to be joining PDP kasi andyan na, maliwanag na nagpo-posture si Senator Manny. On the other hand, we know that Senator Bongo has also been mentioned as a possible candidate. So, kumbaga, sa loob ng PDP pa lang, siksika na sa kandidato. Ano naman ang magiging benefit o bonus para kay Mayor Inday para sumali pa dyan, makigulo pa dyan, when she can very well win it even without the PDP-Laban. So, let's see. In the meantime, speaking of Mayor Sara, ang daming nagre-react, 'di ba? Some of them were reacting to yung yung nomination, yung urging the party, yung resolution, or ano ba to? Yung proposal ni Secretary Cusi to urge President Duterte to run as vice president. Yeah. Diyos ko. Yung iba, some were reacting to that, yung iba naman nagre-react dun sa possibility na si Inday Sara nga ay tatakbo bilang Pangulo. So may mga pikon statements na hindi naman yung basta namamana lang and so on. Well, Mayor Isko statement about a position na yung hindi daw siya doon, hindi siya boboto doon sa parang minamana lang yung position, of course has been called out. Kasi kahit pilitin pa nila yung pagsasabi na parang minamana naman ito, parang ini-endorse dun sa anak, bakit wala na bang ibang mga kandidato, and so on. Para sa akin, simple lang yan. There's nothing in the COMELEC rules or in the law that says hindi pwedeng mag-endorso ng family member, or that says that hindi pwedeng tumakbo ang isang family member for another position, even if your family member is still also occupying a position. Wala pong makapagsabi kung kung may batas nga ba na nagsasabing bawal yon. In fact, ang saligang batas natin, which was passed in 1987, contains an anti-dynasty provision. Pero despite a few feeble attempts to create an enacting legislation, hanggang ngayon wala pa rin. At maliwanag na yung bahagi ng saligang batas na yon regarding the provision against political dynasties requires what we call enacting legislation. Kailangan gumawa ng batas ang lehislatura para ma-implement yung anti-dynasty clause ng ating saligang batas. But nobody has done that. And so, right now, it's still perfectly legal. In fact, sino magrereklamo? 'Di ba? Ang dami-daming ganon dito sa Pilipinas. Minsan nga sabay-sabay, all the family members, mayor, vice mayor, konsehal, may party list pa. Minsan may senador sila, may whatever. ang dami-daming members, minsan yung mga direct family members, magkapatid, mag-ina, and so on, that that we know para umangal ngayon ng isang tao after all of this has been going on for over 30 years, seems na may target lang talaga sila. Meron lang talaga silang ayaw tumakbo, and they signed kind of pikon about it. Pero you couldn't have turned a blind eye to 30 years of that and then suddenly it's not okay. 'Di ba? Hindi pwedeng ganon. Halata yun masyado. Sinoy-noy nga eh. 'Di ba? Parang it's as though he also inherited it. What about when Cory ran just because Ninoy had died? May nagsabi ba sa kahit sino dyan sa Yellow Army na yan, hindi ba parang nepotism? Walang nagsabi ng gano'n. 'Pag humihirit si Chris Aquino na yung parang nagpaparinig but not exactly nagpaparinig that she might run for office, nobody says, "Wag na, dami niyo na eh." Or very few people say, tayo yung nagsasabi nun occasionally. But, kumbaga, nobody brings up the dynasty issue when it's her. Diba? And then, sige, while we're on the topic of the Cojuangcos and Aquinos, ang dami-dami sa kanilang tumatakbo for mayor, vice mayor, konsehal, or whatever, all with the Cojuangco somewhere in their names, dyan sa Tarlac. So I do not understand why all of a sudden, simply because there's an Inday Sara or a Rodrigo Duterte, suddenly it's not okay when we've accepted it for over 30 years. Okay, so obviously those people are being put in their place. Simple lang yan eh. Kahit ayaw ninyo, the true test is kung sino yung boboto sa kanila. Diba? Yun yung test. In other words, all of these people, they're saying these things in the hopes na somebody gets convinced to convince either Inday or her dad not to run again for office, not to run again in the case of PRRD, or not to run at all in the case of Inday Sara. But these are cheap election campaign tricks. And it doesn't look like it's working. Although merong mga nagbubuo daw ng mga grupo saying no to dynasties or no to all of these things. Yeah. If it had been a very popular idea to begin with, forming a group would have been superfluous by this time. Diba? Mm. And of course, while we're on the issue of dynasties, their precious Mar Rojas ran after his own brother died, di ba? Di naman yan politiko dati, and it can be argued that he's still not one. He hasn't learned. Okay. And of course, Mayor Vico also said something to that effect, conveniently forgetting that he has cousins who are konsehal, his uncle is Senate President, and then there's so many others, diba? Before his uncle became senator, the father of Senator Soto was also a senator. So, while I prefer, seriously, I prefer that more people be given the opportunity to run. But we're also not saying na hindi dapat rin nakakatakbo itong mga to. I am against dynasties even before because of kumbaga parang nalilimit yung choices natin. On the other hand, as long as there's no enacting legislation, bakit kayo umangawa? If you really were against dynasties, why didn't you do something about it? Diba? So, but I think yung mga anti-dynasty hirit na ganyan, they're directed at Sara and Bongbong and the president. So, we can see right through them anyway. So, para sa akin, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. So, okay. Next. What were the other things we were going to talk about? Oh yeah, so Attorney Mel Santamaria has a theory that the president is barred from running again for this time for vice president. So let's have a look at that. Look at this. Ito yung provision sa Saligang Batas, Section 4. The president and the vice president shall be elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years, yada yada. And then after that, the president shall not be eligible for any re-election. Ngayon, ang rule sa pagbabasa ng batas is if the plain reading of the law is clear, then there's no need to interpret it. Okay? Ang sinasabi ni Attorney Mel is that before that sentence, the president shall not be eligible for re-election, the sentence before that says the president and the vice president shall be elected. Sabi niya, dahil president and vice president ang nakalagay dun sa first sentence, ibig sabihin dun sa second sentence ay re-election includes re-election for president or vice president. I do not see any reason to interpret it that way. Tulad nga ng sinasabi, ang basic rule sa statutory construction is if the plain reading of the law, it's usually the plain reading of the law that will prevail. If there is no reason for you to interpret, then you cannot or should not be interpreting. So dito, medyo it's a stretch eh. Just because the first sentence says the president and the vice president, there's nothing in the second sentence that says that re-election means the president cannot run for vice president. A plain reading of the law says the president shall not be eligible for any re-election means to be elected again. And when you're saying to be elected again, it is to the position that you have already been elected. So that's the very, very plain reading of it. The court, if somebody ever questions this and says, ibig sabihin pati vice president, hindi pwedeng tumakbo ang presidente, I think they'll need a better argument than this one because just the plain reading of the law already gives us the meaning or the intent of this provision. Okay. I'm checking your comments. Sabi ni Mona Vag, I think it says bawal tumakbo, same position again. Exactly, that's the plain reading of the law. The president shall not be eligible for any re-election. Ngayon, dati sinasabi nila, bakit kailangan yung word na any? I think what it means is that hindi ka pwedeng ma-re-elect because, meaning we can't run for president again kasi re-election means for the position that you ran before. Ngayon, and it says the president. Okay, so, and dyan na yung clues nyo, the president shall not be eligible to run for re-election. So, ibig sabihin, not for the position of president again. But if you're running for a position that is not the presidency, that is no longer a re-election, but an election to a different position. Yeah. Sabi ni Doron Cabillo, plain English, keyword is re on re-election, elect again. How can PRRD be elected again for VP where in fact he's not VP now? Correct. In fact, mas matindi pa kung i-argue nila na he cannot even run for mayor. Oh, sige, maniwala pa ako dun kasi he used to be mayor. He cannot run again for Congress, maybe because he was never Congress. But the problem is it says the president. Diba? All right. Thank you kay Ma'am Bell for the super chat. Sabi niya yung gabi sa imo diha. Attorney Trixie and Attorney Ahmed. Keep safe po. Attorney Ahmed said he was going to join us earlier pero mukhang naantok na eh. Sino yung nagbigay ng $5? Hindi ko na mahanap. Ayan. Ay, 5 euros. Ma'am Rachel Pine. Hola, watching from Madrid. Hola. Okay. Maraming salamat sa inyong dalawa. Okay. Tess Kinilitan Olmedilla says, kung ganyang kaganda ang pagpapatakbo sa Pinas ng presidente, okay lang po mag-political dynasty. Ako, I disagree. I like the idea that more people can participate. But if there is no law, then the presumption is that anybody can still run, even if it is a member of your family. Walang nagbabawal eh. Diba? And I think that if we were really interested na ipagbawal yung mga tao na families to run for positions, even if everybody is still sitting, then we would have made the law. We would have insisted on making the law. Wala eh. So for me, it's moot. There's no point in arguing it now. Ina-argue lang kasi nila dahil nakikita nila kung sino yung tumatakbo. In other words, okay lang sa kanila if it's somebody else, but when it's these people, ayaw nila. That means they're just not being fair. And that's what a law will do. It will make it fair. It will make anybody, what you put in the law, it will apply to everybody. Di ba? Sabi ni Ma'am June, kaya nga in-extend to 6 years ang term ng president para once lang siya pwede maging president. Natakot kasi si Cory sa tagal ng term ni Marcos. Yes, in fact, that was yet another anti-Marcos provision. Sabi ni Joey Relucio, may narinig po ako na hindi daw ma-elect na VP ang president kasi daw pag may nangyari sa president, magiging president daw siya uli. Then it should have said so. You can't infer that eh. Kumbaga, wala naman din yan sa minutes ng Constitutional Convention, or at least as far as I remember. Let me have a look at that again. The point is, if the law intended that, then there should be some clue in there somewhere. If it's not in there, then at least it should have been discussed during the drafting of the Constitution. But Erap is a former president, runs and elected as mayor again. Dapat ba di siya umupo before? What do you mean? Kasi nga, re-elect as president. Now, let's look at the provision again. No person who has succeeded as president and has served as such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time. This one applies to a person who, kunwari, like Mrs. Arroyo, si President Erap was removed when he was only in office for something like 2 years. So, Mrs. Arroyo, because she took over, well, no, not 2 years, 3 years yata. Ayun, basta it was less than 4 years. When she succeeded Erap, she served his unexpired term, which was something like 3 years or 2 years left. So, since she succeeded the president and served for less than 4 years, she was qualified to run for office again. Okay, so yun yung case ni Erap. So in Erap's case, what he was saying is that in fact, Erap ran, di ba, in 2016. Pinayagan siya ng COMELEC because they were saying he served for less than half of his term, or just half of his term, and not for more than 4 years. So he was still eligible daw to run for president. I don't know how they did that. Pero it was never contested in the Supreme Court kasi nga hindi naman po nanalo si Erap. Pag safe, ito. Sabi ni Ma'am Bell, pag safe sa kanila ang dynasty, okay sila. Pero since against sa kanila, syempre di na okay ang dynasty. Kumbaga, they're not being fair in their criticism. Sabi ni June Feliciano, sana magkaisa si Sara at BBM para sure win talaga sa 2022. Si Pacquiao naman, kung president lang yan sa boxing, 100% support ko sa kanya. Actually, anything to do with boxing, except for yun nga, yung proposal niya for the Boxing Commission, I would actually support Senator Manny. I agree. Tapos si Isko, wag masyadong mayabang, talo nga siya sa 2016 sa Senate, tandaan niya Manila lang hawak niya. Si Sara at BBM, buong Pilipinas at OFWs, watching from New York City. Wilfredo Lozano says, ang problema kapag nadidehado sila, sakalang nila naaalala yung anti-dynasty law. Pero kapag kapanalig nila, okay lang ang dynasties. O nga eh. Warren Fontillas, thank you very much for your super sticker. Siguro, sabi ni JP Millanes, kaya ayaw nila tumakbo as VP si PRRD if si Mayor Sara nanalo at bigla siya mag-step down, presidente uli si Tatay D. Mukha siyang loophole sa Constitution para knowing PRRD and Mayor Inday, di nila gagawin yan. Oh, for me, it sounds kind of like a cheap thing to stay in office. And the president doesn't make cheap moves like that. He's always very smart about his own moves, di ba? Thank you kay Body Shot who says, enjoy your stay dyan sa Cebu. Keep safe and healthy kayong lahat. God bless. BBM Sara ang akin. Good one. Gadoy says, mga kupal din naman yon. Nagsasabi na hindi dapat minamana ang posisyon. Di kailangan tumingin na malayo. Ang lapit ng Makati. Hello sa mga Binay. Hindi naman sila nagreklamo noon. Rolando Mauring Reubal says, nakakairita naman itong dalawang mayors. Akala mo may malalaking ginagawa na sila sa kanilang mga sariling lungsod. They still have to prove their worth. Edwin Ko says, I doubt the anti-dynasty bill will ever pass since the implementers will be affected badly. I agree. Thank you kay Ma'am Jackie. Sabi niya, thank you sa lahat ng effort to educate sa mga sutil. Ingat lang. Ito, Alfredo De Vera says, Isko, baka pag doon mo ilalaban yan sa mayor ng Gapan, baka di pa manalo yan eh. Watching from Japan. Okay. Oops. Wait. Sabi ni Ma'am Tess, I can't repeat what she said. Baka i-demonetize tayo. Let me see. Ito, sabi ni Ma'am Cheng, and a VP cannot be re-elected if he runs for president. Doesn't make sense. Well, let's take a look at the provision. Actually, I know that the vice president can be re-elected. Diba? No vice president shall serve for more than 2 consecutive terms. So, ibig sabihin, a vice president can be re-elected. Diba? So, yung sinasabi na yung provision that the president shall not be eligible for any re-election, medyo malabo yung theory that since the first sentence says president and vice president, re-election means president and vice president as well. Medyo malabo po yan. Sabi ni Willie Santos, maaga na muliti kayong dalawang mayor. Masyado sila nababahala sa mga bumisita kay Inday Sara. Di pa nga ayos na ayos ang mga syudad nila tulad ng sa Davao. Baka sila mangaw ng Dynasty. O nga naman. Rain Pinebook says, walang nade-demonetize sa salitang GAGO. Si Kong Velasquez nga doon yumaman, di ba? But you'll be surprised at which videos of mine get demonetized. Halimbawa, pagka ini-explain ko yung anti-terrorism law, nadi-demonetize yung ano na yan, yung live na yon. Simply because I'm talking about it, even if I'm talking about it in educational terms. Sabi ni Jason, that's a good observation. I can see that PDP doesn't like Sara and Marcos tandem. Well, I think they feel threatened. But that's just my theory. Sabi ni Ma'am Sofia, people want continuity of policies. Kada eleksyon na lang binabago at ang nagawa ng nauna sa kanila. Ang bago lang ngayon, gusto ng taong pulisiya ng tatay and people don't see on other leaders who can continue reforms made by the father. Kapanghinayang din kasi. I think that people want continuity when the predecessor has been very good. Diba? Pero pag very bad, aasa ka pa. So, yung pagsulong o pag-angat ni Inday Sara being a possible candidate speaks well of the Duterte presidency. It means na gusto nila itong dating pamamalakad at dahil hindi nga pwedeng tumakbo uli si PRRD, we're going for the next best choice. Di ba? Sabi ni Ma'am Inday, sana Senate na lang takbuhan ni PRRD tapos Senate President siya para wala nang mga nonsense na hearing. Sara yung DBM in highest position. Yeah, but when the President was a congressman, he didn't like legislative work. Gusto niya talaga yung executive position. Sabi ni Ian, dito nga sa Cavite, mga abaya from mayor to Congress sila mga nakaupo for years, even the Remulias and Revilla. So anong issue sa political dynasty? Na-threat lang sila kay Sara? Remember, this issue of political dynasties will also continue into federalism. Diba? If we're going to go into federalism, this is an issue that we must also confront. But do you want it to continue? How is it going to be for federalism if one family is such a dominant family? Like I said, I'm not pro dynasty. However, since there's no law, I'm very glad that Inday Sara can run, di ba? But on the other hand, we haven't even defined what a political dynasty is. So yung mga nagsasabing parang minana yung position. Excuse me. Sige nga, what does that mean exactly? Sabi ni Julian Banyados Jr., akala nila dahil babae si Mayor Sara, kaya nila, dyan sila nagkamali. Di nila kilala na alpha yan ng pamilya. Di yan padidikta kahit pa ng kanyang ama, lalo na ng ibang tao at ibang partido. Although to be fair, I don't think it's about her being a woman. Everybody knows that she's perfectly competent, that she's a good lawyer, and in fact has been a good mayor. I think it's more like everybody else feels threatened. Sabi ni Ma'am Christina, this is a good observation. Patay na kasi WPS at pandemic response sa NASH. Kaya mana-mana naman ang issue nila. Yes, pero feeling ko mabilis rin matatapos yan eh. Ayan, Fernando says nakaabot din daw. He's watching from Sharjah. Itong sabi ni Rain, never forget that PDP stands for Partidong Dilaw ni Pimentel. Very creative. Eto. Ang taas din kaagad ng pangarap ni Manny, sabi ni Sir Rolando Bayubal. With all due respect to him, sana i-level naman niya ang experience at capacity niya sa tama sa ngayon. I'm not against him personally. Qualified naman siya as to the requirements set by our fundamental law. Pero as to his capacity and experience, personally, I don't think so. Hindi sa pagmamaliit ito kapakanan ng bansa ang pinag-uusapan dito, while I firmly believe there's no perfect person or perfect educational attainment for any elective position. I agree. Sabi ni Salvacion, pag na-upgrade ang vice to president, pwede bang tumanggi ang Senate president to become vice president? Okay, ganito yan. Pag napakante yung office of the vice president, hindi automatic that it is the Senate president who will rise to that position. The president gets to choose who is the vice president, and he or she will choose it from any of the legislative from chambers, so Senate or Congress. Naaalala ninyo, when Mrs. Arroyo succeeded ERAP midstream, she chose her vice president, and the vice president she chose was Teofisto Gingona. It's not the Senate president automatically. RM Sotelo says, in my view, after his term, we should reward PRRD with all the honors and love because of his great work, honesty, and love of country. PRRD can be a statesman and guide to the reigning president. For once, we should be grateful as a nation and say, Mr. President, good job. I like that one. Gako says, takot sila sa posibleng tandem ni na BBM at Sara. Kaya kung ano-ano na lang iniisip nilang paraan, kahit wala namang kabuluhan, mga pinagsasabi nila. Di man nila aminin, wala talaga silang ibubuga kahit masama. Magsama-sama pa silang lahat na dilawan, patataubin ng solid north at south. Sama niyo na kaming mga OFWs. Yes, go lang. Sabi ni Ma'am Maylene, naka-close up ka ngayon. I like the way you look. Nakatulog konti. Pero medyo maga yung I think nakagat ako or something. Kaya medyo maga yung mata ko. Ito. Same tactics for Dilawan. Naghahanap din sila ng mauuto sa mga statements nila. Sabi ni Onito Galang. Nanginginig sila sa mga tactics ni PRRD. Yeah, to be fair, the president's like 2 or 3 steps ahead of them. Di kasi nila magagamit yung misogynist at culture of impunity na linyahan kay Sara once siya naman yung umupo. Ironic, tapos mga lalaking politiko yung panay naman parinig kay Sara lately. Diba? Lately, it's all been the male politicians, sila yung nagre-react. But on the other hand, there's no other, well, there is a female possible candidate, that's Grace po, diba? And she's not saying anything. Honestly, I want Digong to come home to us, sabi ni Ma'am Jeng. But if he decides to run again as VP, I will vote for him. Sabi ni Alfred De Vera, kumbawa, sana po magkaroon ng karambola party list. Sigurado marami kang mabuboto dito sa Japan. Ay, eto. Sean Bucara says, I went to Manila last month while NCR is on ECQ. Katakot, you will see the tricycle with drivers not wearing masks. Daanan lang nila mga enforcers, dead ma. Tapos wala talaga social distancing, mga casino, bingo, open. Kayabang ng amaw na grabe na yan. Di nga niya ma-regulate lugar niya eh. Alam mo, that's actually a good point. Bakit po kailangan 10 days ang quarantine? Sabi ni Kara, ang least po. Tapos like us na foreign passports, we have to pay on our own. Si Gwen suggested only the day you arrived, swab agad. Okay, ganito po kasi yun. Even if you're fully vaccinated, then that doesn't mean you won't get sick. The vaccination means that you most probably won't die kasi it prevents 100% the severe cases, most of the moderate cases, and some of the mild cases. So you can still get sick even if you're vaccinated. Number two, you can carry the virus even if you're fully vaccinated and you can transmit it. So ganito yon. Fully vaccinated ka, may swab test ka, galing ka sa ibang bansa. In the transition, you could have carried or picked up the virus, pero hindi pa yun magmamanifest at hindi pa yan makikita sa swab test upon arrival because it takes, remember, 4 to 7 days for the virus to develop and to be detectable. That is why, ina-explain nila, there's up to so many days that you still have to be quarantined even if you're fully vaccinated. You'll have to understand it's not about the policy, pero it's the nature of the disease. Okay? Ang hindi ko lang maintindihan yung difference between 10-day period kung na quarantine kung sa abroad ka na vaccinate. Pero kung dito ka na vaccinate, umalis ka at bumalik ka uli, then mas mababa, 7 days lang yata yung quarantine period ninyo. I do not understand why they make that distinction, and the only thing that I can see is that baka there's no way for them to check kung valid or existing or genuine yung mga certifications when people have been inoculated abroad. So the 10-day period really is to see if you're going to manifest any symptoms. Speaking of Gwen, sabi ni Naila, pwede na daw magdiretso sa Mactan Airport ang international flights. Anyari po doon, baka lang po may chika kayo. Meaning po ba yung protocol ng Cebu ang gagawin versus IATF? No, I understand that it will still be the IATF protocol that will prevail. Remember, the local government has no control over the airports and over national agencies, kahit fully devolved yung ibang services. Now, the services of the airports, which are regulated by the airport authority, is national in character. Hindi po yan masasama under the powers of the local governments. Ay, Ma'am Marites Lucas, thank you po. Nagpadala siya ng panglechon Cebu at wine for Attorney Trixie and Attorney Ahmed. Thank you, Ma'am. Sabi ni Yusef, sulitin na para 12 years term ni BBM for President, Sarah for VP, then 2028, Sarah for President naman. Like, subscribe, and follow. Good point, oh. Rain says, nga pala, nakita na natin, kaya ayaw nila, dahil partido dilaw ni Pimentel, kaya ayaw nila si Sarah at tinanggihan nila ang aldab ni Kong Jonat. Di ba kahit alam ng madla, lasi ang sakalam? That's an apocalyptic sin. Tyrone Guanlao says, nice strategy ni Yolme to use social media, even mainstream media, pero hangad din pala na maging president. Nakita na din ang pagkaganid sa pwesto para protektahan ang mga oligarchs. 3 years pa lang naging mayor, wala pa napatunayan. Raiki Ayado says, malakas ang Solid North at Solid South. Paano na si Solid Waste ng Dilawan? Hopefully they get flushed down. Ayan. Edwin Ko says, the word any re-election there, I believe, refers to any terms of election for the position he assumed previously, unless it says any position. Okay? Sabi ni B. Kurt. Ay, thank you for the super sticker. Bench McNabs this. Lahat tayo waiting for PRRD's next move. Lahat tayo excited kasi knows natin, the man is unpredictable. Nagugulat na lang tayo sa mga susunod na strategies ni Tatay D. Tama. Oh, thank you, Kay. Ryan Locht. So, for the super sticker. Tina Almada says, sobra silang na-threaten kay Inday Sara, gumawa pa lang ng kanta, di pa na nagde-decide for her presidency. Nagulantang agad mga opposition. Keep safe, watching from Tokyo. Pero tayo ng iniisip, more or less. Pero, kumbaga, in my head, I'm a little nicer than you guys. Edwis Sutukil says, si Cory nga naging presidente na di naman binoto ng bayan. Ba't wala silang reklamo? Di ba para harap-harapang hinold up ang totoong vice president na binoto ng bayan na sana siya ang naging presidente? Naman. Ano po sa palagay ang percentage na magiging magkakatandem si BBM at Inday Sara? Kasi pag sila nagtandem, tapos na talaga labanan. I have no idea what the percentages are. I don't even know the state of the talks between the two of them. So on that issue, I think we're really going to have to wait. Ako personally, I like the idea. BBM Sara, Sara BBM, whatever. But the two of them together, you're right, will be undefeatable. Or at least very formidable. Kung baka nakakayanig. And in fact, tingin ko, nayayanig pa rin yung kabila. Kaya kung sino-sino na lang tambalan ng pinalalabas nila. But nothing is going to be to even come close to the to the things that we're imagining for a BBM Sara or Sara BBM. Kahit taga-Tarlac ako, gusto namin si Pangulong Duterte o Sara sa mga ginagawa kasi ng ating Pangulo sa kanyang pag-upo. Ang daming pagbabago sa ating bayan. Tunay siyang nagmamahal sa mga Pilipino. Di ba? Kapag nanalo po ba si Sara, magbabayad siya ng inheritance tax. Ha, ha, ha. Sabihan natin si Yorme. Sabi ni Ophir, oy, Smartmatic, BBM Sara daw, pasok. Joel Paranal says, basta ako alam ko ang lalabas sa huli, BBM Sara. Umi Mayumi says, di ko maintindihan bakit may ibang taong naniniwala pa sa dilawan. Kitang-kita naman yung magandang ginawa ni President Duterte. Sana matauhan na sila. Kaya nga, it was important for people like Sina Maria Ressa to keep saying na yung popularity ng Pangulo ay fake news. Ano lang daw kasi sobrang galing lang daw ng social media kaya napapaniwala nila yung taong bayan na yung popularity niya ganun kalaganap. Unfortunately, hindi nila madidepensahan yon in view of the fact na survey after survey says otherwise. Thank you kay Ma'am Eva sa Piing at saka kay Duhak Kalaagan for your super stickers. Thank you very much. Rain says, pero good ako whether BBM or Sara is president dahil what matters is the continuity of build. Kapag mga pilatong dilaw na upo dyan, dos vidanya tayo ngayon sa mga infra projects and back to inutil days. Ito, Alex Bukayo says, taga-Tarlac ako, Marcos pa rin. Mabaho pa si BBM sa 3 dekadang paninira ng mga dilawan sa tulong ng ABS. Kayo ba naniwala? I never believed that. Uy, teka. Sino ba itong Voice with Love blog? Thank you for your super sticker. And Ruthie Sidor, thank you very much. Ay, salamat ang dami ninyo. Ito. Ang daming comments. Ito. Is Gibo courting Sara for the next election? Sana si Sir Gibo run for the Senate. I understand that he's running for the Senate. Na ewan ko kung bakit biglang na-propose or sinasabi kasi ni former Congressman Rolando Andaya na done deal na daw VP si Sir Gibo dito kay Ma'am Inday. But as we know for a fact, right now, nothing is certain pagdating sa magiging running mate ni Ma'am Inday. At hindi rin natin sure kung tatakbo si Madam Mayor. So, kumbaga, all of this is still speculation at this stage. Pero ang nakikita natin, in fact, that's why I'm here in Cebu right now, is may launch nga ng Duterte pa rin movement to urge Inday Sara to run for the presidency. O, di ba? Ay, si Bench McNabs, thank you very much. He says, enjoy your weekend. Attorney T and Attorney A, and to all, break is over here. Balik work muna ako, replay late. Dahil wala akong hilig sa politika nang umupo lang si Tatay Digong, updated na ako. Solid Duterte ako. Oo nga ako din. Solid Duterte, whether it is Rodrigo or Inday Sara. In fact, solid Duterte ako. Love naman natin din si Kong Pulong at saka si Vice Baste, di ba? Out of topic, sabi ni Ma'am Tess, sa 2022 election, Smartmatic pa din. Ninirelviews ako baka message full support si Satanas sa mga Diablo. Like I keep telling everybody, may Smartmatic nung inelect natin si Presidente. But when the idea is so strong, it you know, it can defeat that the even Smartmatic. Now, remember that Smartmatic can only cheat to a certain amount. Pagka hindi na sila believable, then their own device or their own schemes will come crashing down. Mahuhuli din yan. Pagka believable yung panalo, people will accept it. Pero pagka hindi believable, let's say, takbo si Inday Sara with BBM, tapos biglang may manalo dyan na hindi kilala, then people will not accept that decision. And elections, it's like going to the Supreme Court. You only have this trust that the people there are going to do the right thing. So sa CONREC, ganun din. But once you take away that trust, tapos sila. JR Gatok says, pag pumayag si PRRD na tumakbong vice, palagay ko kukunin niyang presidente niya si BBM. Possible na mangyari yon. Possible. Right now, like I said, anything is possible. Nakakahawa talaga dilawan, sabi ni Julian Torreon. Kaya nagdududa ako kayo, may nadikit na dikit sa mga dilawan. Eto hindi po ba susuyuin ni APC si Mayor Sara? Parang deja vu ng 2016 tandem. Haha, sarcasm. Well, I wasn't even talking about APC lately. And in fact, ang announcement niya is that he's running, but he's probably going to go either local or for president, vice president. So we don't know. Basta he's not interested in the Senate. Tatay Digong is great strategies nung election. Ganun din ang nangyayari ngayon. He is unpeggable. Okay. Sabi ni Albert Onrada, sa totoo lang, kay Duterte lang nagbago ang aming komunidad dahil sa war on drugs. Why has the SC not acted on a petition against Smartmatic? Sabi ni Rolando Reubal, as far as I remember, this petition in 2010 against the scrapping of the safety features of the automated election law by an Emir Comelec Reso. The said safety features are provided in the automated election law. Hindi nga nila ginalaw yung mga cheating mechanisms in the BBM case. The Supreme Court avoided it completely, or at least we know that the Ponencia did. So, why is the hard part to figure out. Kasi that's a human factor. Ako po, di ko po binoto si Tatay D at isa po ako sa nangampanya na wag siya iboto, pero po nang makita ko ang trabaho at pagmamahal niya sa bayan, doon po nagbago ang pananaw ko. Isa po ako sa supporters and defenders. This is Ryan Locke. Thank you. Yeah, ang daming ganyan. APC might be setting himself up para instead makalaban, isama na lang siya sa senatorial lineup. Pwede. Fernando Cabrera says, Sara Duterte, Bongbong Marcos, or Bongbong Marcos, Sara Duterte, ito ang tandem para sa 2022. Okay. Wala ba po kayong mga questions on other topics? Ano naman ngayon Sutil Saturday naman ngayon So we'll be looking at your at your questions. Ito, kung sakaling manalo si Sarah as president, anong tatawag sa kanya? President Duterte or President Carpio? We will be calling her anything that she wants to be called. That will be her choice. Remember, pagka married women, they can choose. Nakalagay sa ating civil code, may use the husband's name, may hyphenate their name, or may not. So you can even use your maiden name. So it'll really be up to her. Personally, if I were her, I would choose Duterte. But, whatever she's comfortable with, she can dictate that. Tanong ko lang po kung bakit limited to one term lang ang presidente pero ang VP pwedeng ma-re-elect for a total of 2 terms. Di po ba dapat the other way around? Well, a vice president doesn't really do anything. So you're just there to fill in the shoes of the president should he or she be incapacitated. Now, the president is not subject to re-election kasi nga, tama yung sinabi earlier on, is that President Cory didn't want, like the idea na pwedeng may mag-president for almost life, di ba? More than 20 years si Presidente Marcos and they didn't want that to happen again. Marami pong provision sa ating saligang batas na mga tinatawag kong never again provisions dahil ito sa reaction to whatever the President Marcos was doing, they didn't want that to happen again. So, hence that provision. Let me see. We cannot predict Duterte strategy dahil nilaro ni PRRD ang mga dilawan. Si BBM ang secret candidate ni PRRD, posibleng BBM PRRD. What can you say, Mr. Gibo? What can you say? Are you talking to Gibo or to me? I happen to like Gibo and I understand that he's running for the Senate, so I'm not even worried about anything. Although, ganito yan, assuming that the Inday Sara runs for president and she chooses Gibo as her vice president, I will not object. He's a very good lawyer. And as a member of GMA's cabinet, he was one of the good guys. So, thank you to Carmelo Cortel for your super sticker. Eto, sabi ni Aris, parang si Bam Aquino gustong mag-return of the comeback. Strategic yung pananahimik niya para walang negative publicity. But once he starts to run or files certificate of candidacy, then may I remind everybody that Bam Aquino is as yellow as they come. Tickwall says, bakit walang independence sa mga lalawigan para gumawa ng sariling electoral process na kagaya ng states sa Amerika? No, actually, that's not the case. It's still a uniform electoral process all throughout the United States, and they basically use the same systems. Kumbaga, that's a federalist structure. So until may federalism tayo, that's not going to happen here. But as a compromise to federalism, former Senator Aquilino Pimentel created the local government code where most of the services are devolved to the LGUs. But elections, these are national. That's not something that's even devolved in the local government code. RGT says, the problem is 6 years is a short stint for president. Dapat tulad na lang sa US na 8 years. But that's 8 years with a re-election. In other words, yung term sa US is it's 4 years with the possibility of a single re-election. Dati nga si President Franklin Roosevelt, was elected for 3 terms. And then after that, sabi nila, sobra na yung ganon. So 2 terms lang. The former, Eberhard says, if the former Supreme Court Associate Justice Carpio will run and Inday Sara, Duterte Carpio, both as president, will this affect in the voting count? No, it will really, well, we can't say. I don't know if we can say that. It's possible, but I doubt it. The surveys prove that the Filipino populace are annoyed, disdain the yellow narratives and insinuations. They're malcontent, but ironically, they neither manifested any qualms nor discontent. How often we were left forlorn, mistreated, and neglected. MSM were in collusion with the LPs, yellows, and greedy oligarchs. Yeah. Eliza Manalang says, give a run for senator, mas mabuti kailangan niyang makilala ng tao. Yes. Okay, last few questions. Buhay says, hello, one thing for sure, I will vote for any of President Duterte's will endorse except MP. At sa aking pananaw na lahat na pumunta kay Mayor Sara gustong suyuin siya, but unfortunately, no one has won her yes. Chev says, for me, I will vote both Inday Sara and BBM because I want them to continue what PRRD started, particularly the build infrastructure, which is obliviously long overdue. Although Duterte made a lot of changes, kulang pa rin. He could have done more, lalo na sa kanyang political strategy sa mga dilawan. More young people are getting vocal against him. Maybe the daughter can do better, sabi ni June Lorenzo Jr. I'm not sure if I agree. But assuming that it's true, na marami rin nga siyang hindi nagawa, which I think is objectively correct. I think that it is too much to expect this to all be done within the single term of a president, which is 6 years. To undo 30 years of nonfeasance, mistreatment of the electorate, and so on. People have just been cheating us for such a long time that when President Duterte came in, there's just too much. So it's unfair to expect that he would have done everything. And that's why people are asking for continuity. Sabi ni Menchi, D-Fled, basta BBM kami. We love BBM, don't we? President and VP must be voted in tandem, sabi ni Wall-E, nawiwildahan ako sa constitution natin na hiwalay ang voting. Happy Torres says, if Mayor Sara wins the elections and you consider Kapo as one of her cabinet members, what possible position would you consider? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't even know if the mayor knows I exist. So I think that's really speculative to think of anything like that, diba? Matagal-tagal pa po ba bago namin kayo makita sa We need more new blood sa Senate. I can donate blood if you want. Hello, watching from UAE, Jonathan Assis. Tanong ko lang po, bakit ang senators pwede mag 2 terms sa position for a total of 12 years? The president is only 1 term of 6 years. Seems unfair in my opinion, especially kung okay naman ang president like PRRD, pwede naman sila mag-file ng bill, right? To have a president to be re-elected. No, we have to change the constitution. Okay. Thank you kay Apple 4S for your super sticker. And thank you din kay Buhay Canada Adventure Nani Edition. Pangkape po. Takbo, Sarah. Sarah, takbo, Sarah. I agree. By the way, meron na naman akong fresh infusion of Run Sarah Run Ballers. Ilalagay ko lang po sa DWIZ. We can't afford to send them all to you, but anybody who comes to the IZ studio asking for ballers, bibigyan ko naman po kayo. While supplies last. Ma'am Ruth Tubadesa says, niniwala ka ba na wala ang Saba sa atin dahil kay Ninoy Aquino para patalsikin si late Ferdinand Marcos as president? Inagaw nila ang pwesto ng pagkapangulo at ginawang lehitimo ang pagiging presidente ng kanyang may bahay na si late Cory Aquino through People Power Revolution. I think there's a compelling argument for that, but there is not enough evidence to put that in as actual history. Definitely na humina yung claim natin over Saba with Cory and the others. Parang hindi na lang pinakialaman. Ito, Ma'am Inday Bedak says, in 1973 Constitution, ang VP ang magiging president pag mawala ang president. Pero inagaw ni Cory, so dapat nasa 1973 Constitution pa tayo kasi fake ang nag-signature sa 1987 Constitution. I think, ganito yun Once the Supreme Court recognized the turnover, game over na yon. It's too late for us to go back to that and erase all of the 30 years. Kumbaga, fait accompli, and that's all now, water under the bridge. Kumbaga, there's a concept that says, basically, andyan na yan. That's what we're going to live with. Okay, last two. Abu Rahel says, can't we question the Supreme Court why they didn't act on the cheating of Smartmatic? Isn't it that the SE should always do well so they always have the trust of the people? It's very frustrating. Who's going to check the Supreme Court? That is the court of last resort. If the Supreme Court makes a ruling that we don't agree upon and it becomes final and executory, that's the law of the land. So in the jurisprudence, kapag hindi diniscuss ng Korte Suprema, then that issue has not been resolved. Like ignoring the evidence held by BBM, we lost that opportunity. That's it. Even if we question the Supreme Court, who are we going to take our case to? The Supreme Court is the last place where we can seek for justice. Other than that, if we fail there, there's no higher court to go to. June Castro says, palpak yung mga humalili sa Pangulong Marcos, puro nagpayaman. Mga oligarchy salot sa bayan. Good point. Ito, di ba may existing case pa si Maria Ressa bukod dun sa mga libel cases ni Keng? Yes, yung sa yung sa tax evasion and so on. Yeah, andun pa naman yun, pero inaapila niya. Hindi naman nawala yun. Ay, Bong Dalde, thank you very much for your super sticker. Lynn Cabrera says, Inday Sara should not use Scorpio because for sure it will have an effect in the counting of votes. Nangyari na yan sa amin dati, nalito ang tao dahil parehong pangalan, kaya pagdating sa counting, maraming hindi nabilang, sayaw naman ng boto. It's also possible that that might be why, why Justice Scorpio is running. Parang pang nuisance candidate lang, Okay. Thank you very much. Ang dami nyo ngayon, Well, tomorrow magla-live pa rin tayo. At least I hope so. If I'm not too tired. But we'll do our best to do live tomorrow is the launch. And we'll be covering that. We'll be posting the pictures and some of the videos so that you get an idea of what's going on. And as many of these runs are run activities, we will try to post as much as possible kasi itong si Radyo Baliw. Kasi nga, we want to see if the mayor can be persuaded nga to run. And all of these are very good efforts. Kay Ma'am Princey Tom, thank you very much. Buhay Canada. Attorney Trix will always give us nice meal. Ingat po. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm already getting fat. Okay, maraming salamat sa lahat ng sumabaybay, nagbigay ng super stickers at super chat sa amin. For those who don't have super stickers or super chats in your region, you can go to our PayPal account, which is on the banner of our YouTube account. There's also a short video that will tell you how to find it if you go through our videos doon sa YouTube. Doon sa mga nanonood sa atin sa Facebook, maraming salamat po. Just by watching, may ads na yung Facebook namin. Apparently, pinagkakakitaan na rin kami finally. So, we're doing everything we can so that there's no immediate takedown of our Facebook account. And don't forget, like, follow, like and subscribe din po sa YouTube. Like and follow sa ating Facebook. And if worried kayo about commenting, because Facebook does that when they try to throttle us when we're doing well. So, comment lang ng comment, react lang po ng react dun sa mga posts natin. It will have the same effect as sharing because this will appear on your news feeds. So, maraming salamat for helping us out also with the throttling. Maraming salamat din for all of your comments and your excellently intelligent questions. Thank you very, very much. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll keep posting and then please keep commenting and sharing this live. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.